guys, welcome back to another creepypasta upload reading thing. So today we're going to be reading a creepypasta based on possibly the most popular video of my channel, the PlayStation 2 kill screen. So this is a spin pasta. It's kind of like a spin-off of a creepypasta, I'm guessing. So yeah. Before this video starts, please give it a like, because I really enjoy reading these creepypastas, especially now around October. So yeah, let's get on to it. This is my first attempt at making a spin pasta, and is based on the great video made by me on YouTube, which is a perfect example of the underrated creepy kill screen genre of creepypasta videos. That's right, guys, I have an entire playlist of kill screen videos on my channel. Go ahead and access it for all of the kill screen videos that I've ever posted on the channel. I'm telling you, they may not have the best grammar, but I'm telling you, they're really good. They're like for 13-year-old editor, those videos were fire. I want to begin this story by saying that I'm a person who loves software and console stuff, and I always will be a fan of them. The world of technology and gaming was always so fascinating to me, to the point I dedicated myself into making software myself, having developed a few applications and also repairing hardware issues, mostly on consoles, which is my specialty. However, one issue turns out to be the reason why, from now on, I see this work in a much more cautious way as of now. So it all started when my then a 13-year-old cousin Harry, who lived quite close to me, called me about an issue regarding his PlayStation 2 console. Apparently he had replugged it after some time of not using it. I remember it. We had played together many games, and after some time it started to have apparent issues regarding a malfunction. I immediately started, as I knew it would be another issue to learn about, and also Harry saw me as an inspiration, as then I was just beginning to thrive in this sector, and he saw me as probably an idol, as we played together many games, and I also had assisted him every time he had a problem with his consoles. 20 minutes in, I arrived at Harry's house, where he immediately greeted me and talked to me about this issue with his PS2. I decided to go and turn on the PlayStation 2, as Harry had reported me about a red screen showing up when he booted it up. I knew what he's talking about. It was the infamous red screen of death many people dread, and I admit it, I was creeped out by it as a child myself. Nevertheless, I turned on the console, albeit without a disc, in order to see how it boots. I pressed the start button, opened up the TV, and saw the normal blue PlayStation 2 startup screen, although it took much longer for it to fade away. Then the red screen of death showed up, but unlike the normal please insert a format disk text, it showed a text I had never seen before. Your PlayStation 2 model SCPH 390, yeah, PlayStation 2 model names, has malfunctioned and cannot boot properly. Please power off the system unit before more damage can be done to the internal components. Press cross to turn off the console. I was shocked to see this message, as I had no idea on how could this message appear. There's no way that such damage could be done to the internal components of it, as Harry told me it was just 5 months the time he did not use it, and then it functioned perfectly. He also told me that it was yesterday when it appeared and there was no signs of it, including not even overheating, as normally a console would react to this scenario. After hearing this, I ignored the message about turning off the console, and I rebooted it manually after clicking the startup button twice. The startup screen showed up for a second time, but this time it glitched before fading away. The red screen of death again popped up, this time with this message: it is important to turn off your PlayStation 2 console, or else more damage will be done to the system's components. Please power off the system and don't turn on the console after the shutdown. Press cross to power off the console. This time it looked more vocal in its warning, but I still assumed it was a fraud. And Harry agreed with this, although he looked somewhat frightened at the thought of his beloved PS2 having terminal hardware failure. Still, I convinced him it could be just an issue that it could be repaired easily, and I rebooted the console for a second time. The startup screen, however, glitched immediately after showing up, and then it took more time to fade away. The red screen of death popped up again, but this time it was more blurry and with a far more serious message regarding the issue. If you continue ignoring these warnings, your PlayStation 2 may suffer irreversible damage caused to its internal components. It is strongly advised to turn off your system unit by following the instructions below. Press cross to power off the console. Now this is where stuff began to be actually serious. I immediately turned off the console and unplugged it, as it was apparent that the hardware could have major damage for real. Luckily I had got the tools with me, which I picked up from home, which means that I could examine the hardware of the console and see what is wrong. After taking the PS2 to a table, I opened and saw the internals of it, and to be fair, I was shocked. I analyzed every single component of the console, especially with Internet Assist, and also calling some friends of mine who knew more about consoles than me at the time, and gave them descriptions of the condition of each component. They told me that there is no way they are damaged, and they could not believe about the screens we got. Harry also talked to them on the phone and told them exactly the messages he received from the console, but they could not believe us, as they had never seen a red screen of death showing those error messages. And even when he told them it referred to the model code of the console, the entire CPH thing from above. However, they did help with giving me useful information about the hardware of the PlayStation 2 and how would they look if there was any damage on them. The hardware had actually no visible damages on them. Neither the console had picked up dust from the internals. It did have some, but I cleaned it. Also, I searched on my phone about the errors we received, but for some reason, the only search results on Google were about only the normal red screen of that. There was no actual info about the ones we saw, and I became even more confused. Still, having seen that hardware were in fine condition, I decided to plug again the console and reboot it, hoping it was a sick joke by Sony or something. Harry was a bit off after this, but he did persuade me to reboot it. However, when he rebooted it, something really strange happened. The startup screen showed up, but the Sony computer entertainment letters were in red, and the tune was in somewhat lower pitch. The screen also took much longer to fade out, and the lower pitch, along with the fact that there were a few red details on the screen, unnerved me, and Harry looked at me with a very worried look on his face. But it was just the beginning of what we saw. The red screen of that popped up again for yet another time, but this time it went from simply creepy to genuinely unsettling. The red part of it was even more red, as in more for a shade rather than the pinkish shade it is normally. And the pitch of the tune was also more low. The message showed up again and said, "Powering on your PlayStation to put it at a high risk of an irreparable corruption to the system's BIOS. We're encouraging you to turn off your system unit by following the instructions shown below this warning. Press cross to power off the console." Okay, if the situation was weird at first, now it was getting really scary. I don't know how PlayStation was capable of this in case of potential damage. And even worse, as I saw before, there was no way I could figure this out, especially with no information available on the internet. I took immediately a photo of this in order to prove that it happened. Harry, meanwhile, was becoming even more scared, as not only he still had the fear of losing his beloved gaming data, but also due to unnerving messages that were showing up with each successive reboot. I thought momentarily to find a way to extract the BIOS from the console, but I did not, as it seemed to corrupt. Allegedly, as of now, there was no other choice, and I could not simply just trust a message I had never seen before on an existing PS2 model. So I just rebooted the system. It is also worth noticing that when I pressed the cross button to power off the PlayStation 2 before clicking the start button, the PlayStation 2 button effect was also under a lower pitch. Rebooting it turned out to be a really bad idea, as now the startup screen was covered in static. I could faintly see the Sony computer entertainment text. This time, however, instead of fading away, it glitched up, making the typical glitch sound, and the red screen of death appeared, this time in its most satanic variant. The entire background was red and the cubes were black but barely visible. The music also had changed, this time to a more hellish tone instead of the whoosh we heard the 4 previous times. Harry just looked at me, clearly scared and unable to even speak at what he was seeing. The message that showed up this time seemed like the console was talking to us and warning us to prevent its apparent death. You need to turn off your system unit or else the BIOS will be corrupted permanently. Listen to this message and don't power on your PlayStation 2 after turning it off. Press cross to power off the console. After that last phrase, which was on every single error screen we saw, showed up. I tried to press cross as soon as possible as I realized that this was way more serious than it seemed and was an error that was way more severe than I had ever seen in my life. Then and even now, both Harry and I decided to turn off the system permanently and just take it to a local shop in order to analyze it further. But before I could just press cross and shut it down for good, the screen made a glitch noise and turned pitch black by itself. However, the console had not shut down. After waiting for a few seconds staring at the black screen, both confused and scared of what we saw now, this message showed up, which actually gave us a small ray of hope that the PlayStation 2 would not die in its fullest and could at least save some data. Your PlayStation 2's BIOS is corrupted and it could not start. The only option to continue using your console is by entering into recovery mode. Just follow the instructions below. Press circle to enter into recovery mode. Recovery mode? I did not even know it existed. It looked like it's the safe mode that we see in Windows operating systems. It allows you to salvage data and fix issues with a damaged system. Harry was happy to see there could be a way out of this, and not to lose the entirety of his gaming memories, and persuaded me to enter into recovery mode. I was happy for this option to exist, even if I never heard of it before. And without a second thought, pressed the circle on the controller. The recovery mode menu showed up with two options, either enter it or quit it. I did not want to quit it, obviously, as the system would die instantly, so I just entered it. The screen showed up the message entering recovery mode, please wait, alongside the blue circles that show up on the menu when you don't insert a disk in and access your memory card data, and we just waited, hoping that would potentially restore the console to at least a usable state. After approximately 8 seconds, the screen went black again, and we waited to see if any message would show up regarding any way to see how recovery mode worked. It was our last chance to save the console, and we are hoping something positive would happen. Sadly, it did not happen. In fact, the opposite happened, and in a way that has scared both Harry and I for life. The screen popped up with the message fatal error, but the background was flashing between white and red with the letters remaining pitch black. Heavy static also accompanied the screen, but the scariest thing that we heard was the sound. The volume felt like it was turned up to maximum by itself, and an extremely loud noise, something between static damaged software sound and even human screams started to play. It was the scariest thing I had ever seen in my life. I felt the console was outright screaming at us for its death. And to this day, I still hear the noise in my mind from time to time. Harry was scared to death and began screaming and crying at what he saw. I was unable to calm him down, as the entire ordeal made him freeze like a statue at the mere sight of it. The screen flashed for 8 to 10 seconds, but it felt like an eternity due to how frightening it was. After that, the screen went pitch black and the console started to beep. Despite me shaking like a fish out of its water due to what happened the second before, I just turned off the system for good, realizing it just died. Harry was still crying after seeing his favorite console both dying and emotionally traumatizing him. I tried to calm him down despite me still being unable to recover from the ordeal. And we sat for some time saying nothing before I left the house and came back home. I was unable to sleep that night. I had a nightmare of that fatal error screen throwing the blood-curdling static scream sound towards me again, and I had the same dream for several weeks, costing me valuable days of good sleeping. And while those nightmares were gone after some time, I still felt uneasy when seeing PlayStation 2 models ever again. Meanwhile, Harry decided to reluctantly throw away the PS2, deciding that he wanted to do nothing more with it, as he was clearly scarred from this incident. And it actually took him even more time than me to fully recover from it. We never talked to anyone else about this, as nobody would believe us and think it was just a hoax. Which is what people thought when I posted the sole image I took on my phone on a forum the day after this. I did post the error message, but people replied citing that it was impossible that such an error would show up and the PlayStation 2 would simply not boot up if it had got a fatal BIOS error. To sum it up, I never talked about the kill screen, as it turned out to be ever again to anyone, especially Harry. who still flinches every time he gets anything to remind him this in his mind. After some time I just moved on and decided to become an even better at fixing devices and developing software, and soon I became what I am now, a determined person ready to assist for any issue. However, about this kill screen there is still a question I have yet to find an answer for. Even with more advanced hardware and software knowledge, what caused the issue? Is it possible to happen in any PS2 model? And if yes, why did Sony would make such a scary kill screen for a console popular to every age group and mostly children? To end this story up, nobody will get an answer for this. Well, this story was really good. Actually, I might say it's even better than the Mario Kart Black one. For starters, it actually seems more genuine. For starters, it seems actually like a more genuine environment in which this would be discovered. Normally gaming creepypastas simply go the route of, hey, I found this game at the store, which it turns out is possessed and all of that. But this actually might feel somewhat realistic, maybe, because of my video that he inspired to make this creepypasta. And honestly, the transcript of the video wasn't really 100% accurate to what had really happened in the video. It was about 90% really, but I'm really glad that he actually managed to sort of get the same feeling that the video gave to you while watching without even having a background story or anything. And this proves how just a silly little video can make such a great story. Honestly, if the author of the story is listening to my narration of it, I want to tell you to please continue making creepypastas because you definitely had a really great job at making it. And I would like to see more of your works in the future. But now it's time to go back to really bad creepypastas, sadly. Just because I have them in a Word document, I have all the creepypastas listed, and most of them are just really terrible ones. I didn't even select which ones I want to choose or want to. I will just randomly pick a few of them, then I call it a day. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you stick around to the channel for more creepypasta narrations. And I'm FANSONIC, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.